Hey, Wayne, Brinda.
Yes.
How's business?
It's we're moving along. We're getting ready for our 18th season. I can't believe it.
Congratulations.
Wow. When we started, I wasn't sure if we were going to make it past our second, but now we're in our 18th season already.
And you are talking about Prime Stage. For those who have not had the pleasure of meeting you, sir, you are producing artistic director of
Yes.
Prime Stage, which has its home at the lovely New Hazlitt Theater.
Performing Arts Center.
Oh, okay.
That's what it's called now, the New Hazlitt Performing Arts Center.
And it is Hazlitt, because a lot of people
Yes.
say Hazlitt.
No, it's Hazlitt.
Too. Like hazelnut, that's how I got to
That's it.
remember
You
it.
got
See,
it. That's
right
it.
off the bat, we're learning things here. This is fantastic.
That's what it's about.
What do you recall as being your very first dramatic stage experience?
Oh gosh, a funny story. When I was an only child growing up, okay? And I remember my dad was a professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and they had acting classes at Pitt, right? So I was 5 years old, and my dad said, you know, we need to get him more social.
Yeah.
So we're going to have him take some acting classes.
That's a way to do it.
So there I am, a little squirt going into this huge cathedral of learning. Of course, I was late for the first day of class, right? And so I walk in and there's all this stuff, and the assignment was to go outside in the hallway, find a trunk, and bring a trunk back into the classroom and open it up and tell us what's in there.
Wow, okay, yeah.
Right? Well, so I went out into the hallway looking for a trunk. I went through the entire Cathedral of Learning. I couldn't find a trunk. They didn't know where I was. Because I got there late, I missed the opening that this is supposed to be imaginary, and you're supposed to do an imaginary trunk, right?
So you were a method actor
Yes.
right off the bat.
5 years old, I was looking for a trunk.
Ooh, this kid's hardcore. All right, I like it.
So they sent the whole class out looking for me and everything else, and I was in tears. I said, I couldn't find the trunk. Well, I kept at it. I went to Point Park to study acting, then I got into lighting design, stage management, and directing. And worked with Tom Thomas and did stage management at Civic Light Opera for a number of years, and pretty much learned the ropes, But then I had a job at Point Park at the Playhouse Junior, because I got my master's in what was then called children's theater, but now it's called theater for young audiences. And so I
Is that PC? Is children no longer PC?
I guess not.
I'm a young audience member. Don't call me
I know,
a child.
it's like children's theater, what? But what I found was when I would go out into schools and I would talk to teachers and talk to kids about theater, they didn't know what I was talking about. They knew musicals, but they didn't know straight theater. Mm-hmm. And that would be middle schools, that'd be high schools, and that'd also be teachers. So long story short, my contract expired because I was there through a Vera Hines grant. And then my wife and I sat down and she said, Wayne, you've always wanted to start your own theater. You don't have a job right now. Maybe now is the time to start a theater company and do kind of the thing that you want to do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think we can do this. And I also talked to Chris Rawson, and Chris Rawson said to me, why does Pittsburgh need another theater? What's going to make your theater different than anybody else's? And I told him, I said, we're going to be focusing on education. It's not going to be a theater that does education. It's going to be a theater that blends education with our artistic mission. And we're going to be focusing on literature. We're going to be doing these pieces that nobody else is doing in this area, that I was doing at the Playhouse, but I was finding, because my networking with theaters around the country, there's some incredible scripts that were done out there, that were just amazing scripts that weren't being done. And I thought, these things have to be seen. These things have to be shown. These things have to be produced. And they're based on literature. So these three people that I talked to said, go for it. Believe in it. We believe in what you're doing. We believe, see what happens. Go for it. So I had three people that believed in me and my wife, thank God. And we started the company, and here we are 18 years later.
So Prime Stage was truly born of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah, it really was. And it was really born out of a need that I saw that there was missing, that there was something that was missing out there. There were these connections to literature. I also saw kids that weren't reading. I saw teachers that didn't know how to use theater, to teach reading, So I was really seeing that there was a real hole going on. And then when I went to Duquesne when I started this, I thought, well, if the head of the company that deals with education, maybe I should go and really find out what education is, because I was also teaching school at the time, so I was an English teacher at the time too. And so then I went and got my doctorate at Duquesne in educational leadership. So now it's like, now we can talk pedagogy, now we can talk education. Now I know what's going on out there, and we can do these programs that, again, it's like, as one person in the foundation said, well, where does your education mission and your artistic mission begin? And my first education director was there with me, and we kind of like looked at each other, Aaron and I looked at each other, and we went, we're blended. We really are blended. So everything we do artistically has to be pedagogically sound, and everything we do educationally has to be artistically wonderful.
And so you source then most of your season from, I would suppose, adaptations of classic literature.
Yes.
In other words, what students may be reading in school at that time.
And not necessarily classic literature. Yes, we will do classic literature, and everything we do is based around middle school and high school reading lists. But we've done things like we did The Westingame, which is a contemporary book.
Yeah.
A couple years ago. It's published, and it's being done literally all around the country. We just did The Devil's Arithmetic, last year. We're doing Animal Farm this year, We're doing Jekyll and Hyde, a new script of Jekyll and Hyde, which is classic. But I'm also in contact with contemporary authors to see what we can do to do an adaptation of a contemporary book. Because again, what are kids reading?
Given your mission, I think that maybe somebody who has not taken in a prime stage show might have a certain misconception of children's theater in their mind. But the amazing thing about it is these shows hold a candle to anything else that's going on in town at a professional level. But it's not what some would consider, I think, children's theater. Like,
Well, let me tell you a funny story with that. A couple years ago, we did 12 Angry Men. Okay. Rich Keitel, actually, this is the one that Rich Keitel directed.
That's heavy.
Yes, it is. And a father brought his son to see 12 Angry Men, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, I gotta tell you, I am so happy to see that you did this with adults, because I was thinking you were doing this as kids, the children's theater. I thought I'd be seeing kids up there. He said, you're an adult theater company, aren't you? I went, yes, we are.
Although I have to tell you, doing 12 Angry Men with kids, and like little kids, is a concept.
It is a
maybe
concept.
like a playground setting, who stole the cookie, and they're all sequestered in the principal's office.
It could be kind of cool, yeah.
So what's going on for Prime Stage in the near future here? What do you got coming up?
We got some really neat stuff coming up. We got a world premiere of Jekyll and Hyde coming up, adapted by Bruce Hall, a friend of mine, a playwright from Seattle. Michael McKelvey, who teaches at Point Park, is going to be directing it. The neat thing about Michael, he just did, The Bloody Jackson at Point Park. He really, he does like Sweeney Todd. He loves the darker
gore. Spray some blood around, he'll be
Absolutely.
there. Yeah.
So he's going to be directing that for us, which is great. I'm really excited about that. And then we've got Animal Farm coming up, a regional premiere of Animal Farm.
That's going to be a challenge.
That's going to be fun. Yeah, Melissa Grandi is going to be directing that for us. And that's going to be in March. And then we're closing the season with The Mousetrap. Rich Keitel's coming back and doing The Mousetrap for us.
I was in Mousetrap years ago.
There you go. Who'd you play?
Detective Sergeant Trotter.
Did you really?
Which was my favorite role.
That's a great role.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've got a couple other things. And of course, the big thing this year, we're doing our gala. And we have a really neat thing coming up on November 5th, Wednesday, November 5th. On the set of Jekyll and Hyde, we have Dr. Cyril Wecht, who's going to do a presentation about evil, the nature of evil, and also sign some books. But I think it's going to be really cool, and it's going to be like our fundraiser. Tickets are $50 a piece. But to see Cyril Wecht on the set of Jekyll and Hyde, I think that in itself is like,
It's a little ghoulish. I like it.
And the other thing that's really neat is this year, because the Oakland School closed, which is where we've been rehearsing for 8 years, we found a new rehearsal studio, which is kind of where we are today.
Yes, we're here.
We have a new rehearsal studio. It's great. It's got a big parking lot, which is terrific. And we're here 24/7, but that also means what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting master classes, a whole series of master classes. And there are things like dialect master classes, audition clinics, and in fact the first one is coming up on October 25th. We've got Drew Talbot, who's a finalist on Sci-Fi's Face Off from Pittsburgh. He's going to be doing
makeup.
Yeah.
Wow,
So he's going to be doing a master class on makeup, which is going to be kind of cool.
Well, if he can just
Halloween, right?
tell me how to cover these bags under my eyes, I'll be all set. I think I may come to that.
There you go.
Hey, free parking and makeup, I'm here.
That's right. That's right. And we'll provide some drinks for you too. So what else?
I may never leave.
Most of the people I talked to, this was back in 94, 95. And most of the people I talked to said, "You're nuts. This is not the time to start a theater. This is the worst thing you could possibly ever consider. Why would you want to do this now?"
94, 95 was the worst time to start a theater?
That's what they were saying.
Everything's relative, I guess.
Yes, it is.
Is Harry Potter in your future?
I'm not sure. That may be a little
all right.
But who knows? Who knows? I just, there's another one called The Shades of Grey that I just...
Not 50 Shades of Grey.
Not 50 Shades.
No,
that's another one.
I think it's important to make that, distinction.
Yes.
Somebody needs to do a stage adaptation of the Wayne Brinda story. Who would play you?
Oh, God. Everybody said Richard Dreyfuss and I look like each other, so maybe Richard Dreyfuss.
All right, but who could we get?
We are going to be having auditions for Animal Farm coming up I think it's in November.
So I've got to really sit down and think, what kind of farm animal do I resemble?
There you go. Picture Napoleon playing a ukulele. Picture, that could be kind of...
This is going to be fun.